Hey, Soul Sisters. Today's episode is one that speaks straight to the hearts of so many women, those navigating the tender and transformative journey of life after love. Whether you've recently left a relationship or coming out of a marriage or simply rediscovering who you are beyond the roles you once played, this one's for you. I'm joined by a beautiful guest, Ilana Shulman, who brings such powerful wisdom, lived experience, and gentle truth around what it really means to reclaim yourself after a relationship ends, to remember who you are, to fall in love with yourself again, and to rise into the next chapter with grace, strength, and wholeness. So if you've ever asked yourself, who am I now? Stay with us. This conversation is your reminder that your story isn't over. In fact, you're just getting started. Hey, Ilana, so glad to have you join us today. Really, really excited to dive into this episode and really have you share with our listeners, our soul sister community today on really what that looks like and sharing your experiences, your lessons, and takeaways. So without further ado.
Awesome. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Whitley. Thank you, Carrie, for having
Welcome.
me. I just want to put it out there. I'm not like a doctor. I'm not an expert, but this is a conversation I could definitely have from the heart. Something that's so important, I think, for women in a relationship currently, maybe their first serious relationship or, getting ready for marriage or in marriage. I do believe that there is such an expectation of the next step and the next step and really living into that future, getting excited for not living in the moment, but excited for what's to come. And we probably, many of us could attest to saying, yeah, that sounds familiar, right? Like getting excited. And then all of a sudden it's like you're in that situation. And maybe at that moment you've realized that you've forgotten a little bit about like what got you there, what personally got you there. And you might feel stuck. Like you might feel in a situation where there is no real looking forward to anymore. You're in that situation. You are married, you have the kids, or, what are you looking forward to? And I think that is a real testament on when you are separated or you are going through a divorce or you're single and never been married, there's that way for you to say, like, am I happy in my moment right now? Am I strong enough? Do I have a great foundation that no matter what happens, like if I get hurt or if I, lose a friend down the road, because we don't have our values aligned anymore, that it's okay because like you love yourself. And of course there's heartbreak, there's sadness, but I think there's such beauty and understanding that like you're the priority. And sometimes it takes a huge breakup to realize that like you are that priority for yourself. And I think that's really just kind of taken the upper hand when it comes to how I see relationships moving forward, right? Like, it would suck to get hurt. It would suck to get your heart broken, but you have to be okay with it. And you need to have that strength to say like, that wasn't meant to be. It really hurts. It really stings. But at least I got myself and I know I can get through this. And I think that is like maybe easier said than done in some situations, but there has to be that self-love, which is not easy to get. And I think that when the reality hits of a really tough breakup, you have ways to pick yourself back up. And it's okay. Many of us have gone through it, even if you feel like you're totally alone in that moment.
Wow. I wouldn't want to follow up on that. And this is from personal experience of having, cycles of the same types of relationships. Like, we as young girls, we often go through that where we're still trying to find our worth, if we're enough. And I want to ask you this question. Do you feel like there were certain cycles that you had to learn to break for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. And it was even like the kind of person that you would, fall in love with, or not, I wouldn't even say love, but like the type of person that you would just want to be around. I've more recently got into understanding different love languages and different types of attachment styles. And I think there's a lot to be learned about yourself, understanding what your attachment style is and where to maybe see red flags from others. Right? So what do we have? Secure. Everybody'd love to be secure, but it's hard to get there. There's anxious. And then I don't know all of them, but I know the avoidant as well. And you have to kind of ask yourself, what are you feeling when you are in those types of relationships or just getting started? And are you getting certain anxieties that are coming out that are just a bit of a red flag for yourself? And I think you have to look within those and ask yourself, are you ready? Like, are you really ready to move on or to meet this person or go out? If they're not bringing those types of like feelings for yourself, like you're feeling a bit more anxious, then I would say, wait, hold off, get yourself in a more secure situation. And that is hard to do. But until you could be secure and then feel like you're ready for that person, I feel like there's some attachment styles that will kind of let you be and treat you with more security once you're in that situation. So if you're coming off secure, somebody who has more of like an anxious or the other one, they're probably not going to, they're not going to come on to you because they know how secure you are, right? When you have anxiety, I feel like that could definitely bring on more of those red flags and people finding that attractive.
I really love that you brought up the different type of like attachment styles. I spent a little bit of time learning about these as well, like on my own healing journey, right? But like the anxious attachment style and the avoidant attachment style, are you able to elaborate a little bit on the both of those? So for any of our soul sisters who are listening in, they're like, I want to know which like style I may lean more toward than the other.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like avoidant is, pretty clear. Like somebody who might avoid situations might not give you their full best, or, sometimes those avoidants also could just need their own time to like recharge their batteries. I definitely fall into that where, with my partner, I love spending time, but like anybody, well, for my style, I need that time alone. I need to like recharge my battery by spending time by myself. But, if I was dating somebody who was more anxious, they would probably be like, is she pulling away? What did I do? Right? They're in their head a little bit more and, are going to think a lot more negatively about what did they do? Am I not lovable? Am I not somebody that they want to be around all the time? But that, I would say, is definitely, the beautiful thing about having that anxiety is that it's something you could work on, right? If that is something that you are falling into in terms of your attachment style, then you just need to be like aware of it. And once you're aware, there's a way to become more secure. And then of course, the secure one is like, okay, my partner needs some time to unwind, be with his friends, or be able to, spend time alone. I'm comfortable with that because I'm the same way. So there's that little bit of security about like understanding, like secure is somebody who might have their values down packed and knows when they see a red flag and knows that in the future, this might not be a good fit. So we probably have friends who are dating people and we see it from a bird's eye view where it's like,
yeah,
I don't know if this is a good match, right? Like the best of you is not coming out. But we have to get comfortable saying that, but they don't see that. It's almost a challenge and it's like something that they want to do, even though it's not best for them. And maybe they'll learn from that or not. But when you say, Sherry, like you're falling into those same traps or same situations, that could be that, I'm not assuming that you're anxious, but as an example, if you were somebody who's anxious, you tend to go for avoidant because they're the ones going for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, like back in the day, I'm talking about when I was a teenager, I had no self-worth. And so when we look at that, it's like, how do we learn how to have self-worth? How do we learn to see our worth in these situations? Like how many times are we going to get like pushed down until we figure it out or see it? Because sometimes you don't see it until you meet the right person. And so a lot of people, they think that's all they deserve or that's all they'll get. And so they stay in those relationships because they don't know any better. They don't know that they can get any better until it actually comes in and they're like, whoa, like you say, you don't see it. You only see it on the outside. That's exactly what I went through in my relationships. And so I guess the question would be to you is like, were there red flags about this and that you kind of like put on the back burner? And when did you finally see, okay, I know my worth and I'm gonna move through this?
I love that. I really think that there's a great practice that I started to do. And I think it was about saying no. saying no more, right? And I feel like for a long time in my youth, I was a pleaser, a people pleaser. I always wanted to say yes, 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 yes to friends. Like I regret saying yes, but I said yes, so I have to go, right? I have to go to that party. I have to do this, or, meeting people, even if I wasn't interested. And then as soon as I started to get stronger, and this didn't come honestly until like late 30s, early 40s, where I started to say no more. And I think that that was a huge opener for myself to start creating better boundaries and being able to really just be able to start on my journey of having more self-worth. Because I started to say yes to the things that really matter to me. But some people will call, like, how do I say no? How do I get myself out of this situation? It's like, just say it. Just say no. What's the worst that can happen?
It's so powerful.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
because,
break up.
I think, like, I know I can relate to that as well, Ilana. And I think also Sherry can relate to that too, is like, we've been in that stage where people pleasing, right? And not being able to say no. But you realize that when you actually begin to take those baby steps, because sometimes, like, it's a lot, right? So you have to kind of start slow, taking those baby steps of, practicing saying no more versus yes to everything. And I believe that over time, as we begin to develop that muscle, because it's kind of like you got to like work it as a muscle, and then learning, it opens up more for yourself to be able to understand and recognize where to set boundaries. Because sometimes women don't even know where to start when it comes to boundaries, setting boundaries, because they have been so used to saying yes for so long, right? And so again, it's like taking those little baby steps of learning to say no, like here and there, and building up muscle. And then I think over time, you get stronger and more intuitive of what those boundaries look like for you. And I do believe that it's like that energy, when you stand in that energy of not being open to all of the other energies, we'll say like the vampires who just want to like take, right? When you stand in that own inner power, you begin to start to attract other people who are also operating at that same level too. And so I think that, like, to your point, when you are going through that transitional time of after love, after a relationship, a marriage, it's so important to take that time of healing. It's so important to learn about yourself and to start to practicing those things that maybe a lot of us never actually did before. So I'm really curious about what were some of the things, what were some of the steps and the actions that you took? What were some of like the rituals that you may have brought in, or tools that you began to incorporate as you were going through that transition after divorce?
Yeah. So for my divorce, it was not easy, right? Because I needed to like pick myself up. Like the way we know each other from more of like a corporate standpoint, I didn't have any of that. So for me, it was like I got out of there and I had to pick myself up, right? I had to be in a situation where work came first so I could support my son. So that was my focus for like a few years. I couldn't even think about dating. But over that time of like starting to really excel at my job, I started to realize like I'm okay, right? I mean, I work in sales, right? If you can get on the phone and talk to a stranger and convince them, greatly that they should move to the next step and the next step, like who could do that? Who could just get on the phone with a complete stranger, if we think about sales in a nutshell, and convince them that what you are talking about is what they need? And that starts to build a lot of self-confidence. So luckily I had that job. It was tough, right? Like I was working crazy amount of hours. But when I look back and I think about the strength and what I learned from that, it was manipulating a situation to make it my own. And I know that could sound a little weird, but it definitely helped me realize like, I got this, I'm confident. So, in terms of rituals, like I would say exercise has always been something super important to me. And I try to prioritize that, right? Getting out more, exercising. I'm a past marathon runner. Now I just run leisurely, but those were super important things for me. And then friends, right? I met one of my closest friends going through a divorce, right? She was the best support. Unfortunately, this could be a whole other podcast, but I did lose her in 2020 to cancer, and that was awful. But that woman gave me the utmost confidence and strength that any friend has ever given me in my past. And it still has such an impact on me today. So that was beautiful. And that was like a gift. Whoever was there, that was a gift that I needed to get through those really difficult times and be able to feel confident as a friend as well as a mother. So that was a really difficult time, but it was absolutely wonderful and crucial when I look back. I think something I believe really got me through it is practicing gratitude. You have to be grateful every day for something. Even if you're in a bad situation today, for any woman, anybody listening, practice gratitude. Anything. You're grateful for being able to move your legs, being able to see, anything so small, and you're going to start to realize that you could start to really rely on more and more things to be grateful for. So that was something that really helped me get through that. And like I said, after, it was really starting to establish those boundaries. When we started at the beginning of this conversation, I did talk about the fact that you tend to look into the future, right? When you're thinking about getting married or you're thinking about your first serious relationship, you're thinking always in the future. But when you go through something, you have to be more confident with the present. You have to be grateful for the present and taking small baby steps in your future conversation, right? Plan a trip a few months down the road, but think about the daily things that you can do to prepare yourself for that trip. And I think that was something that really got me through it.
That's so powerful. And I think you're speaking truth because we often forget that the now is more important than the destination. And a lot of us think the destination is where we need to be focused on. And so, you're tunnel focused and then you miss everything around you. You miss your kids, your lives, you miss your partners, you miss your friends, and I'm sorry to hear about your friend. That's so sad. And I often say people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I believe that she was there for a reason and a season, and she helped you, right? And so I'm sorry to hear about that. So as far as your journey goes, finding your identity now, walk us through a little bit of that journey after finding your identity and maybe give us some little insights on what the surprises look like, maybe inspiring other women to, face the road bumps ahead because it might be rocky, but there is hope on the other side.
There is hope. And this is going to sound so cliche, but you got to figure out what you love about yourself, right? You got to find one or two things physically that you really love about yourself, you love about your body. You got to think about things that you love mentally as well. What can I give to somebody? What do I bring to a relationship? If you can't answer those questions, what does that relationship look like, right? Are you relying on potentially your partner giving you your self-worth? And if they don't give you that in a day, where's your mood? You need that to feel good. So I think that you really what got me through that is building that confidence. I'm not every day thinking, oh, I'm beautiful, I'm wonderful, but I know what I have to offer. And I think that if you don't really know that and you're relying on it, that can get ugly. That can get really messy. So I think, asking yourself and being confident, right? Not asking anybody else, but, asking yourself, what do I bring? What are my values and what can I bring to a relationship? That could be, I'm not just talking romantic partners. I'm talking about friends as well, right? Tell me if I'm wrong, but as you get older, your friend circle's getting smaller. I mean, mine is, right? But 100%. I'm okay with that. I'm totally cool with that because to me, values are going to be super important as I age, right? What do I want around me? What do I want around my son, right? Who do I want around them as well? And I know family could be different sometimes on values, but you have that option with your extended family, with your friends and your loved ones. I don't know if I'm answering your question fully.
No, that gives a good, a good drawing of the whole picture because I think that some women think that, I don't know, they're afraid to leave their marriage or whatever. And so, it's a journey. And I think what you're speaking on is that journey of self-love, the journey of being okay to be alone too. And also building that confidence in yourself, knowing who you are. Because I think at the end of the day, we're all human and we're here for experiences. We're here to learn from those. And we say that a lot on this podcast is that every experience, every woman has a story. Every experience is not unique always. It's it's relatable to a lot of other people. And so your story is relating to so many women because they've also been in that same boat. So giving an overall picture of okay, it's not just smooth sailing. It's really doing the work. It's going within. It's, nurturing yourself first and your core relationships in your life, like your son and your family, because then the people that support you, because, and you're saying about boundaries, that's huge. Like, I don't have time to do things that don't light me up. I don't have time for people that drain my energy or, are constantly negative talking, because we know that the more you talk negatively, the more negative stuff seems to follow you. And so I think it's so important, like you said, as we get older, we are going to have to pick and choose what people are in our lives, where we go, how we choose to live. And you're really prioritizing yourself in the simplest possible way, but it doesn't make it easy. It actually, I feel, makes it harder because you're having to face these shadows. You're having to see all the things that you avoided before.
100%. And, people could be listening to this thinking, oh, well, she got divorced, she separated. Maybe she had family to support her. I'm in a situation where I don't have anybody. How, I can't do this. But that's not true. I had nobody. I lived in the city and I knew nobody. But, I think it's important to realize that, like, we make excuses for ourselves all the time. And I understand situations are hard, but you have to think again within, like, stop thinking about all the reasons without, right? And I feel like that if you're telling yourself you can't do it, the first thing you need to do is really hone in and say, why, what can I do well? What do I do well? What potentially does it look like on that other side? And that doesn't mean future. That means how you felt before, right? What's left you? What do you not feel anymore? So it's kind of backtracking to a place that you felt more comfortable, because I don't want to go against what I said, thinking about the future. But there is that person in there that was existing before. And that's the person that you want to treat as the most priority. And like, you're almost babying your inner self to think, how can I bring that person back? Right? There's like, nobody deserves, why are we putting people up on a pedestal? Why are we thinking that they're better than us? Why do we do that? I don't really understand it. And I do listen to lots of different podcasts out there. And, I listened to one recently that really hit home. And it was a lot of the stuff that we're kind of talking upon today, but it was from a man's perspective. And it was really amazing. I wish I remembered the name of it, to be honest with you. But it was just that more perspective of like how to gain that respect. And it's really what I'm saying about setting those boundaries, saying no. And also, I don't know if you ever catch yourself doing this, right? I'm a giver, right? I love to treat. I love to surprise. I like to cook. I'm big into that. And at sometimes I could find myself like when somebody or my partner is like, can I help? Can I do something? What do I naturally say? No, it's okay. I got this. You don't have to do anything. But in this podcast, it's like, no, it's okay to say the things that you need. It's okay. Like people want to help. People want to feel a part of it. And if you turn that around and your person's doing everything for you and they start to ask you, do you need anything? Or if you're starting to say, sorry, if it turns around and you're like, can I help you? And they're saying no, but you want to give and you want to turn that around so you can see that perspective where, no, we're in this together, right? So yeah. I feel like that was that. Maybe I'm not explaining it so well.
Yeah,
but that really
I love that you said. I love that you said that, actually, because I think it's so important. Because I think that as givers, and I think even as women, we naturally want to give. We naturally want to nurture and take care. And it's very difficult at times for us to receive help, for us to say yes to receiving, right? And I think it's so important to kind of flip it. And I like the perspective that you gave it. I'm really curious too, though, because as we're talking about the journey of the self-discovery and kind of like coming home to yourself, right? Finding that love within yourself and going through that journey. At what point did you know that you were ready to go back out into the dating world, to like put yourself out there to find love again?
Didn't.
That's good to know.
Honestly, like, yeah, like I was really nervous, right? Like you hear stories and like, how could I meet somebody with the dumpster fire that's out there right now, right? Like I was super nervous to get out there because I felt like I potentially wasn't going to find somebody who really made me feel good or special or loved, right? And sometimes like it just happens. And I wasn't a believer in that at all. I was like, I'm not going to find my person, right? Like Oh, I'll date, I'll go out for a couple meals. But people just, I mean, let's be real. Like, I got the ick a lot, right? Like somebody who would just like, not for me. They would ick me out. And I just didn't feel like really spending time with people. Maybe because I almost thought like I gave myself too much self-love, that I wasn't letting people in. But now that I look at it, it's like, that just wasn't my person, right? Like that, I've met some amazing people, had some amazing times, but were they my person that I wanted to like actually see a future with or be able? I never felt that, right? Like I didn't, I feel really good about that now. Yes, I've met somebody a few months ago that all that is kind of, thrown down the chute because I feel like I'm building a really good partnership with somebody who is on the same page, right? Who also was out there dating and didn't feel that or didn't feel like there was that potential match. So, I don't want to say like this is like some, Disney fairy tale story, but I'm excited to see where things go. But we are living in that moment
I
as
have
well.
to follow up on this because I am still somebody who is like I've gone through the journey, the healing journey, girl. And it's like I know Sherry and I joke about this all the time. It's like, girl, like go and meet people. Like you're in Toronto, you're in a big city. Like there's so many people out there. Like put yourself out there, go meet someone. And I think that there is this I think that there's still this like resistance. I know I can speak for myself, but I'm probably speaking to some of the women out there too who've gone through a bit of that journey of that solo journey, and they're still not quite there, and maybe they're waiting for it to come. Maybe they're a little afraid, they're a little hesitant, maybe they feel like they're not ready. And I guess for me, I'm the one that's resonating with those women right now, right? Because I have constantly told myself, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. There's still a little bit more work to do, like not putting that fear or that resistance of putting myself out there to even begin with, of opening myself up to meeting anyone. So what would be your advice to me selfishly, but also not selfishly? I know there's a ton of other women out there probably who can.
I have some input on this, but Lana can say hers. But I also feel like it comes when you least expect it. And I always believe when you know, you know. And I just feel like it's a feeling. It's more of a feeling than it is logic. Do you know what I mean? Like you're saying, I'm not ready. I don't think I'm there yet. But when you meet the person that just gives you that feeling and you see everything that, you're worth to them and the value to them and how you can make a life and all that, it starts to make sense because you may not have seen it while you were single, but when you meet that person and they just like ding ding ding, it's a different story because you don't plan for those things. You really don't.
I'm going to ask a difficult question to you, Whitley, too, and you don't have to answer this, right? But you have to ask, like, what is the energy that you're putting out there, right? What is the first impression that somebody walks away from you thinking? Are you closing yourself off, right? Or are you open? And I think, right. And I usually am closed off. I usually am like,
for people listening, I'm pointing my finger like at Whitley.
It's what you have to ask yourself. Yeah. If you feel that like you're closing the door before it even opens, then you have to address that on your own. And I was doing that as well all the time, right? So I don't know what this person did to like open the door and keep it open. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I could easily walk away and say, this is what I feel like I'm bringing to this person. These are the values that I'm doing, and this is why it's working.
I think you said values, and that's such a big part, I think, right? The values match the feeling of like connection, that the same goals, the same values. And I think, Whitley, yes, your energy is beautiful on its own, but I think sometimes and I'm going to speak for you, I don't care. I think sometimes you do resist it. And this is honestly from seeing you and out, I think you're guarded in a sense, right? And that's from my own, knowing you as a best friend. I just feel sometimes that you're super flirty. I've seen you flirt, but it's not the same.
I love that. Let's go out.
Let all secrets out.
But I think also you need to feel comfortable. If I'm not comfortable, I shut down. I could go out on like a date and I'll have nothing to say because my physical comfort is not there. So I'm very intuitive to people's behavior. So you might have, like, I found love right now at 44. I'm 45 as of yesterday.
Yay.
But you need to ask yourself, why is your guard like that? And what do you need? And as soon as you kind of write what you need, then you might be able to manifest that
Ooh, I
yourself
love
too.
that. Alana, that's so good. And I know like this is really, really great because I'm like, I'm going to take this. And especially right now with like the whole
Welcome to your podcast, Whitley.
Alana over here. I love this. But no, I
Right?
think you're right. It is. It's like that's such a powerful question to ask yourself is, what do you need? And really kind of going inward. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna sit with that. I feel like yeah, because it's definitely time. I feel that. I feel like it is time to take the wall down and let my energy be open more. And so I think starting with kind of like reflecting in and just asking myself, like, what is it that I actually truly need right now to make me feel safe enough to put myself out there without resistance.
And stay firm on that, right? Because you might fall into the trap of like, it was important, but is it really important? That's not going to be what you actually want. So that's where I'm talking about stay in the moment, recalibrate if you need to, right? Come back to it.
And I think it comes back to breaking the cycles, right? Like how we talked about all of the relationships that made us feel a certain way and we're like icky, that ick. And you're like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to get back into another relationship because, it never worked out with all these. But there's a pattern. There's something to be said for that. There's something to be learned from that. And it's like looking at things in a different way. When you meet somebody new, you're like, don't go for the same things that you used to go for. Look at things that maybe you may not have seen that may be more aligned with you than you thought they were. So
I do have
Definitely.
another question.
Love that.
What do you know about love now, Alana, than you did before?
I believe that love is, of course, it's a feeling, right? But it has like its commitments, its connection, right? Like I've never really felt comfortable telling somebody that I love them. I feel like I can't say it. Like, do you ever want to? And it's like, it doesn't come out at all. But I feel like a mutual love is like actual support. It's actual connection. It's being there in the good, the bad, and the ugly. My current relationship is new. We haven't gone through those like ugly moments, and like hopefully we don't. But I'm totally okay if that person reaches out to me and is like, I need your support. I need your support with this. Like, those are okay. Like, I feel like, I don't know if this is really making sense, but it's not a surface thing. It's a deeper thing where it's okay, right? This person could get violently ill in front of me, but I'm going to be there to support them no matter what.
Yeah, I want to add something to this because I noticed that, like I talked about before, when you're younger, you have different relationships. And as you get older, your relationships become very different in the way that you look at love, the way you look at relationships. Sometimes it may be more physical in the beginning, and then it goes into like more of a respect thing. And I can say for my mother, not to air her business out there, but I'm gonna. So my dad separated when I was just 14 years old. And I think it's because she was not ready for it. She was not ready for marriage. She was in an arranged marriage, forced to love this man she barely knew. And, for years and years, she put up with those feelings of, resentment towards her parents and having to do this thing that she didn't want to do and being forced to love this man. And so there was a lot of fighting, exchange of words, and it wasn't good. So it's a good thing she left. And we did go to India for 4 years and all that, but I came back home and she stayed. She stayed so long. She stayed for 18 years until she finally found forgiveness and herself. And the way she loved my father was so different than the way she went into it. She found forgiveness, respect, friendship. It was not that in-love feeling, but in that stage of her life, she was okay with that. And my dad was always been waiting for her. It was a love story gone wrong, gone right later. But she left and she went back to him and she took care of him, and the mutual respect. And You know, it was a different story than what it was when I was young. Like, it didn't look the same, right? So I feel like everyone's journey, they may not be ready for that relationship. They may not be at that stage. And love looks different for everyone. Love languages are different for everyone, especially in a culture like mine. There wasn't I love yous. There wasn't like affection. You know, those kinds of things were like, people say like, you got to be affectionate, blah, blah. It's hard for people that never grew up with that kind of, you know, approach. So my mom and dad, they loved each other later. I feel like she always did, but she was too stubborn and the ego just kind of got in the way. And poor thing, he was just waiting for her. And, you know, she went back, she took care of him, and then he passed away. And now she is just filled with like love that she had with him, even though all those years, but that wasn't meant to happen. Those 18 years that she was with, they weren't together, was meant for them to be on their own separate journeys.
Yeah.
You
Everything
know?
happens for a reason.
Yeah. So I think you're right. Like everyone loves differently. And the way you love, it has to align with the other person too, like at the same time, some mutual kind of thing, right? So if the energy's off, it's not going to work.
Right.
Right?
And I think like we could be in our heads a lot, right? And we kind of expect that the other person knows what's up, but you got to talk, right? And you can't be afraid of your words. People don't talk because they're afraid of the circumstance of those words. But like if a person truly loves you, those words are or should be welcomed, right? Those thoughts should be welcomed because that's what I believe love is. And I love the story about your mom, right? Like they married very, very young. And, you know, how much growth, right? Sherry, we're the same age. How much growth went from your 20s, your 30s, your 40s? And can you imagine being with the same person through all these different hurdles and, you know, peaks and valleys of your life? That having those 18 years and then coming back together, that is a love. That is a mutual respect for each other.
But it looks different, you know?
Of course it looks different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does. And, you know, you might think that that's some pressure for you, right? I don't know your scenario now, if you're married, if you're not. But, you know, you could fall into your own type of love that might not reflect the type that your parents had.
Yeah, my love, like, I love my husband to death and he gives me everything. I mean, Whitley will tell you, he like served me hand and foot, you know, he's just that loving of a person. He's a giver. I mean, he's a great dad and everything. I think my issues stem from my childhood where I didn't show that affection as much. And so I've been battling those things. And so I think you're right. Communication is key because it's a mutual respect thing, right? You have to understand where I'm coming from. And I'm going to understand where you're coming from. And somewhere in the middle, we meet, right? If it's worth it, you work on that. And if, you know, like I wouldn't give up this person who treats me like this. You know what I mean? Like if it's somebody who's ill treating me, yeah, I'd be like, bye.
Isn't it crazy how our childhoods make up so much of our adult lives? Everything comes back to childhood, right? And Whitley, I know that you were very honest in the first podcast, one of the first episodes as well. And I just have to say, like, you're killing it, right? Like, you just like elude this energy. And I know of you being an amazing mother.
Thank you so much.
So,
oh my goodness.
You know,
thanks, Ilana.
That is beautiful.
Problem. I'm like, let's not cry on this. We've had a couple of like opportunities for tears so far today.
Yeah, it's a glare. It's the light.
Yeah. Ilana, okay. So one final question for our soul sisters who are out there listening, and for any of the soul sisters who are currently going through this rediscovery, this transitional time in their lives, what is something heartfelt advice or anything that you can share with them today?
Yeah, like this is such a small period of your life, right? If you're experiencing the situation that you're in right now, it's going to be a distant memory at some point, right? So even though you feel like your world is shattered, you're miserable, you're unhappy, you can't find yourself, you're going to look back at that saying, that was such a small moment. And that is like crazy because right now you're like, yeah, right. I can't imagine that being the case, but it is true. And you need to figure out what makes you happy because everybody has happiness. Something in your life has made you smile and you got to figure out what that is And baby steps is okay to get there, right? It doesn't mean that that love is going to be the thing that gets you out for somebody else. It could be just having that self-respect, understanding where your boundaries are, what you are going to say yes to, and please get comfortable saying no. It's okay. And a lot of us just don't think that that's something that we can do. Another thing I've read recently in a podcast was, we have a hard time talking about what makes us happy or what in a relationship could, I guess, make us upset, right? We might be in our own heads. But a man that truly loves you wants to feel a sense of purpose, right? I'm going to kind of go off track here for a moment, but, we hear it all too often where, there could be a couple that got married and, 10, 15 years down the road, the woman's like, my God, like this man doesn't clean up after himself. He doesn't go out or take me out on any dates. Nothing, right? But won't do the things that would just make me happy. And you have to ask yourself, right? Because what would happen is the woman could approach the man and say, that's it, I'm done. I want a divorce. And he's like, what the heck is happening, right? I was happy. I was super happy. And what did I do? Well, you never took out the trash and you never cleaned up. You kept making a mess and you never took me on a date ever. And this podcast that I listened to really hit home with the fact that speak up, announce your consequences, right? And then if this woman said, hey, you know what? I would like for you to take me on a date. Let's go out. Even if it's like once a month, take me out. We can go out and enjoy ourselves. Or please pick up your freaking laundry and say a consequence because I'm not happy, because this is really hurting me. I don't feel loved. Those types of things don't come up. You live inside your mind. So being able to announce, like, here's a situation, here's a consequence, a man will then understand, or a partner will then understand that there is a risk, without being surprised 15, 20, 30 years down the road because of the settling situation. So even if you're unhappy, ask yourself, like, how vocal are you in your current relationship, and have announced that consequence.
So powerful. Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's no relationship is easy. No marriage is easy. You have to work at it. And it's being aware of those things that, maybe don't work for the other person, and understanding how we can compromise on things and communicate on those things. Because if you don't, like you said, you sweep it under the rug, it's going to end up like a volcano and erupt, and it's done. So,
and they're just like, where is this coming from?
So true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Ilana, this has been like such a one, like, I'm excited about this episode. This has been an amazing conversation. And I think you touched on a lot of things that are even relevant to women who are in relationships. Like, they don't necessarily have to be, out of a relationship. And like, to your point as well, like the story about your mother, Sherry, and your father. And it's like, yeah, there's been so many amazing takeaways for women in general, just really stepping into who they are and growing on that journey of really being able to love themselves and building that strong, powerful, like, foundation within themselves. So thank you so much. This has been so nice.
Well, thank you for having me. Invite me back anytime, please. Just sitting here and talking to the both of you is all I've been looking forward to.
I love it.
You did not disappoint. So thank you for such
you didn't
great
either.
conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you. We are so excited. Thank you, Lana, for coming on. So we will see you, Soul Sisters, on the next episode. Bye for now.